Hey everybody, and welcome to Providing Clarity, a new webinar series from Clarity Studios where we go behind the biggest movies not coming to a cinema near you. This month we're talking about The Haircut, a new summer feel-good film, are all around saving you time and money without sacrificing quality. Now I've got some amazing guests with me today. So we've got Head of MI, Data and Finance at Clarity, Darren Williams.
Hi.
We've got Strategic Account Manager, Trish Williams.
Hello.
No relation there. I've just got to put it out there. I very rarely say your names that close together, but just so you know. Yeah, they're not in the same room. They don't speak to each other anymore. And also, so this man is the savior of absolute clarity. So anyone that listens to our podcast series, we're now in season 5. This man came on when we were just doing all right. A few people listened to the show. Rami came on, Rami El-Dahshan from Virgin Atlantic, and absolutely smashed it. Came on, they were amazing. He's been on every season since. We'll just rope him in. Whenever the viewing figures are going down a little bit, get Rami on. And Rami's come here as head of Clubhouses to talk to us all about that and the value that those things bring. So before we get into all that, how are you all doing? We'll probably start with Darren.
Really good. Really good. I'll just point out, I think there's a bit of maybe a one-sided bromance going on, Rami, because he just references you all the time. It's like,
just all the time.
It's unbelievable. No,
name dropping.
I'm really, really good. Thanks. Yeah. Busy, which is a really good thing. I love being busy. I love having loads of different things to do. So yeah, I'm good.
Brilliant. And what about yourself, Trish?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. I'm heading off on an actual aeroplane on Sunday, which is very exciting, going off on our holidays to Madeira. Oh. So looking forward to sharing my wonderful experience, which it is going to be, I'm sure.
Trish, don't put your passport in your suitcase.
Personal experience there.
Don't do stupid things like that.
And what about yourself, Rami? How are you doing?
Yeah, good. It's been a heck of a year and a half since you and I last spoke. But you know, things seem to be picking up again. You know, some level of normality. I think I went to a sort of a big corporate event last week where we saw lots of people mingling with each other. It just seems mad that we can do all this sort of things, but international business travel still feels quite distant.
Yeah, it just feels a little bit out of reach, doesn't it, at the minute? So. I mean, we'll probably start off with that one. We're recording this in August now, August 2021. So what are we seeing at the minute? I suppose from a TMC perspective and Clarity's perspective, are we starting to see bookings coming back?
We are, yeah. I was looking at the usage of our air trackers yesterday afternoon, actually, and you know, pre-pandemic, you'd see the usage going like this up and down, and it drops off the face of the earth as COVID strikes. But we're seeing a steady increase now. I mean, it's still low, but it's positive. It's good.
And what about yourself, Trish? Are you seeing clients starting to ask questions and book?
Yeah, definitely. I think for the moment, there's still a lot of business critical travel only. There's a lot of additional approval steps that have been introduced over the last 12-18 months. So, you know, most of the trips need senior management approval before anything. Obviously, there's a lot of risk assessments happening as well that have been introduced. But the general consensus is the expectation from September onwards is that they're going to start seeing a little bit more consistency, the way we were hoping it's going to go.
Yeah, you mentioned about risk assessments. Now, last episode we did have George Shaw on, who's the co-founder and managing director of ILS. So is that something that we're seeing a lot of people really looking at those risk assessments and trying to work out whether a trip is actually worth going on at the minute, whether it's a bit too risky or not?
Yeah, that's exactly the purpose. And there's all kinds of formats from literally manual documents that are having to be completed internally and then signed off to, you know, for someone to justify the need of that trip in the first place. And then, of course, we're supporting other clients who would like to introduce a risk assessment process but don't actually know where to start. So we're able to work with them and with ILS as well and look to introduce those processes in a way that they're then able to capture when approval has been given for that trip before it goes off to the quoting stage, just the actual need for the trip. And we can capture all of that in our MI as well.
I think I tend to spend a lot of time talking with customers through the sales process and the bid process, and every single one that I've spoken to over the last 6 months are referencing approvals and risk assessments as part of their essential workflow.
And Rami, the last time we spoke to you, you were within the sales team at Virgin Atlantic, so you were out there trying to sell the wares. And now you're in charge of the wares at the clubhouse. Can you talk to us a little bit about what the Virgin Clubhouses are?
Sure, yeah, happy to. Clubhouses are our Virgin Atlantic branded airport lounge space. So we have several around the world, and for us, those are how do we inject the sort of Virgin Atlantic spirit into an airport lounge space? How do we create a space where people kind of forget they're in an airport for a while, and give them that opportunity to be a bit playful and adventurous and just really think about what their needs are personally before flying, rather than your standard, have a drink, have some food. How do we ensure that when we do those things, we do them really the best of our abilities? And personally, I might be a bit biased, but I do think the Virgin Atlantic Clubhouses are the best in the world because of our people. So how do we ensure that we're giving people what they need from a personal touch perspective as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to visit a clubhouse over at the Heathrow airport, and it does feel like when you step into that lounge, it does feel like you're not part of the airport anymore. It feels like a completely separate space. And I imagine that is something that you've tried to do, that you've done a lot of work in to try and make it like that.
Yeah, I think it doesn't feel like, when I talk to other people in airport lounges, it doesn't feel like we have the same kind of mindset and structure. Give you some examples. Our mixology team that we have on site have done an average between 12 and 15 years of service within the airport. There is no set recipe for anything in terms of cocktails and drinks. It's all about the individual's flair to provide a drink offering. All of our food is cooked fresh in our clubhouses. There's nothing, boil in a bag and pre-prepped. For example, all of our fruit salads that we serve every morning are prepared on site. They're all cut and prepared there. And I think it's elements like those that really translate into what people sort of receive in the clubhouse. Those things happen behind closed doors, but I think people get that reflection when they receive our service.
And are you starting to see bookings increase, more people coming through the clubhouse?
Yeah, I mean, the demand has been huge. When we reopened on the 15th of July, we were only expecting 200 odd people into the clubhouse on day one. We saw 400 people. And a big part of that was people who have gold cards sort of buying access, even though for guests or people like that. Because we're seeing a lot more in the aviation industry generally, people looking to buy access when it's not included in their ticket a lot more. There's a lot more of that expectation and that demand for a couple of reasons. One, it's about the spacing element. If you want space, you're going to get in an airport lounge, particularly a clubhouse. And secondly, people are getting to the airport a lot earlier than they've ever done before. Business class customers who know the airport like the back of their hand, who would, have turned up to the airport 40 minutes before departure, are now turning up 3 hours before departure. And all of that confidence they used to have as travelers has disappeared very, very quickly. They've known exactly what security lane goes quickest, and they know exactly what they want to eat and drink, have all of a sudden started turning up going, where do I go? Who do I need to speak to? How do I get the most out of this experience? So there's been a real shift in terms of the volumes of people coming into the clubhouse, but also their demands and expectations as well.
And you're based at Virgin at Heathrow Airport, obviously at Virgin. What are you seeing, obviously, from the people that are coming in? Because I imagine it's a lot of leisure travel at the minute that are coming through. And like you were saying, is that just people aren't quite confident at the minute? I mean, how's the testing going? How are the wait times? How are things like that?
So, yeah, I think in terms of people coming back, there is a degree of desire for familiarity. People want to sit in the same seat they've always done. They want the same drinks. They want the same food. A big demand of that is because everything else is so different. So actually, from a customer experience perspective, customers want that feeling of familiarity as soon as they walk in. But also in terms of demand, in terms of what we're seeing is, yes, it's a lot of holiday makers, but we're starting to see those business travelers coming in, mainly from the US point of sale, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Because US nationals are allowed to sort of travel back and forth. So there is a lot more flexibility from the US perspective. So we are seeing those business travelers coming in, but unfortunately not yet from this point of sale.
And what about yourself, Trish? Are you seeing those conversations being had with your clients where they long for that familiarity when they're making the bookings?
100%. Yeah, people are really, they're dying to get back out on the road. Absolutely. They're dying to get back out and sort of get those relationships going again. You know, there's a lot of relationships there with that clients have with their suppliers. They're used to doing those amazing trips. And it's just all completely stopped. And we've said before, as much as virtual technology has been fantastic and has really had its space, and still does to a certain degree, you know, it's got its space in the business world. It's not quite the same. And when you've spent a long time building up those relationships, you want to get back out there, you want to invest that time with them. So definitely clients are really, really keen to get back out there, but there is that nervousness still. And I think what I'm hoping is that where you do have travellers that are going out and going through those experiences, that they're coming back and sharing those in the business and hopefully trying to, you know, add a little bit of confidence to those who are probably a little bit more nervous than others.
Now, the Haircut, the new film, is around about saving money without sacrificing quality. And obviously that's a big part for us when we're talking about Clubhouses, because the assumption would be you wouldn't talk about Clubhouses if you're talking about saving money. But actually what we're talking about in the Haircut is adding value as well. So it's not just about saving money, it's what value can be added to your journey that'll make your people perform the best. So we've used an example on the podcast, which was you've got a salesperson and they're going off to have a really important meeting, and how could they utilize the Clubhouse, Rami, to put them in the best frame of mind to then go and get to that meeting and smash it?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, sometimes in the business travel community, we're a bit lazy with how we think about business travelers' needs. I think in the old days, we used to have this perception that they're all incredibly busy on their Blackberries and they're in their shirt and tie and suit and they're pulling their bag away and they're all incredibly work. And actually, I think perceptions have started to blur, and we've really started to understand that one size doesn't fit all. And you know, business travelers don't necessarily. I very rarely see someone travel in a suit these days. Yeah, so much marketing and sort of sales paraphernalia that TMC is associated with are these people in suits and, you know, very, very smart looking luggage. And actually, what we are providing in our airport lounge space is more of a flexible approach to what people need. So yes, we have all the table dining service. You can have a meal before you fly. That's a really important part of business travel is sleep, right? The reason why people pay more for a business class ticket is so that they can get rest and sleep on board. And what we're trying to do is really encourage people to eat and drink whatever they need before they fly, so that as soon as they hit the air, they can lie down and have a sleep, particularly on those shorter flights to the likes of JFK and others, particularly coming the other way. You know, coming back across the transatlantic. So we do have that key element and that key ability. We are changing our menu very subtly as we continue to develop. Half of our lunch menu and dinner menu now is veggie vegan. Okay. And we're putting more focus on yes, we do have indulgent options for people who are going on an amazing holiday or an experience. We still do have those things, but actually how our airport lounge is doing more to offer healthy, refreshing food rather than just grabbing a sandwich and crisps and a cookie or whatever that you might do. So it's that fueling. You know, we need to think about business travelers like athletes, and they are fueling for events and activities. So nutrition is a really important part of that. One of the things that I'm really excited about is our addition of Peloton Bikes into the Clubhouse have been really well received so far. I think we're the first airline to have Peloton bikes in an airport lounge space overlooking the runway. And this is really just to give people an opportunity to get half an hour of endorphins, get a sweat on, get into the shower, and go on their flight. Because, you know, one of the big parts, particularly on transit travel, when you've got two sectors, one after the other, is that transit time in the middle. Yes, you can get some work done, but actually it's about giving you all the sort of platitude of options for you to pick what it is you need and when you need it.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it we've talked about in the past, haven't we, about that health and well-being of travellers. And instead of just trying to rush people from point A to point B to do what they need to do, it's giving them those options in the meantime. If somebody could get the work done, they could just sit and read a paper, they could have something to eat, or they could go on a Peloton bike. Imagine, Trish, you'd be having a gin on the Peloton bike. Like,
I've got no comment.
Yeah. I imagine Darren would just be working out on his data and MI. Yeah. Figuring out how he's done all this
on the Peloton bike. I think the idea is brilliant though, and you know, the realization of doing it, I think, is a really, really good idea. I'll be honest, you know, if I was had the experience to go to the Virgin Clubhouse, I don't think I would have thought about, you know, going getting some exercise and then jumping in a shower before going on a flight. I'd have probably been focused on finding somewhere to sit down, get some food and drink, and read a book or plug the laptop in or something like that. So having that disconnect, I think, is brilliant, genius.
Yeah, I think there's going to be. Sorry,
Rami. No, I was just going to say we're definitely seeing clients. Obviously, clients have been reviewing their travel policies as well over the course of the last 12, 18 months, and where historically premium and business, for example, was an absolute no. It's not even a consideration because it was all about the cost. Actually, traveller wellbeing is right at the forefront. So they're introducing the opportunity to book premium, the higher cabins with additional approval, for example. So they're opening. You can see that they're opening that up, and the whole point is exactly as Rami and Darren have just been saying. It's making sure that they're not having to worry about what space they've got or where they're going to get something to eat. It's all just sorted for them to give them a much better traveling experience.
And I think this particular the pandemic has been very different to other lulls in travel. You know, if I think about financial crashes or 9/11, that's affected the entire financial industries. That's affected so many companies. Whereas actually, if you look at the last, when I speak to corporates, a lot of them have never had a better year when it comes to performance. A lot of the work that large companies need to do now are around staff retention. I just saw PwC last week announce the record bonuses paid out to employees ever. And I think the market is becoming, to keep talent, it's going to be really tough in the next couple of years as you see new sectors open up because of the pandemic and so on. And I think sometimes within aviation and travel, we're quite insular. We're thinking, my God, it's been a really tough year and a half, 2 years. But there's a lot of industries that have emerged, and actually staff retention, there's a direct correlation between, you know, travel policy and staff retention. So yes, you might think, oh, well, having an economy policy will save me X, but if you're spending all your time and money trying to retain talent, this feels like a really obvious option for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, Darren and Trish, he's lying about the talent. No one wants you. You're best to stay at Clarity for now, so don't be listening to Rami about that. So we are going to get into now about the polls. So every month with Clarity Studios, we've been releasing polls around the films that have been out there. And it's really just to get a take from the audience, from the travellers, in terms of what they think about certain topics that we're talking about. So the way we've done it with every show, I'm going to read out the polls, I'm going to read you the options, and I'm going to ask for your personal opinion on them. And what we'll do, we'll probably work up around my screen. So we'll go Darren, Trish, Rami on these ones. So the first poll: will you be encouraging face-to-face meetings or sticking with virtual solutions? Now, the three answers that you can choose from. So yes, can't wait. No, virtual's the way forward, or a mix of both for now. So Darren, starting with you, what do you think the audience... So let's go from your own personal opinion first.
So personal, is probably C. And I think that's the one that people will be going for as well, having a mix, because you can see I'm in the office. I'm absolutely loving being in the office. I'm in the office full time. I love getting out, doing the commute, getting on the train. I am really looking forward to traveling on business again, staying at a hotel, getting a train to places. But as Trish alluded to earlier, there is a time and place as well when video conferencing is brilliant. So, for example, I have a team call a couple of times a week with my remote working MI guys. And that's brilliant because I can just video conference them. We have a half hour to an hour meeting and away we go. We're not, all jumping on trains and all trying to get into one location. So I think it's a combination.
And what about yourself, Trish?
100% agree. Yeah, that's it. A combination would be my opinion. And I think I would be surprised if any of the others outranked that option, to be quite honest with you, because again, speaking to clients, they're kind of finding that balance and that work-life balance that, the phrase that we always talk about, but actually, saving the 6 hours return road trip or train journey or whatever it is for an hour and a half meeting, replacing that with technology. Not all the time, but these aren't things that are new. We've talked about this for many, many years. It's just the pandemic forced people to utilize the technology solutions more. But definitely, looking forward to getting back around those tables and speaking to people. And it's that human interaction that, we're not all meant to be isolated like this. It's so bizarre. And like Darren said, getting together for the team meetings, we have our catch-up team meetings every single week on Zoom, but there's nothing quite like all of us being together for a full day and having a bit of a laugh, a bit of a banter, and getting down to the crux of what we need to do. So I'd say combination.
And Rami?
Yeah, I would agree. One of the things that I don't think we've nailed just yet as a sort of working together from a business perspective is blended meetings. And what I mean by that is when you have like 2 or more people in one room and then everyone else is on Zoom or Skype. Like there's just this real awkwardness when you've got people in the room and you can see how the engagement is different when you have people face to face. People are making jokes and they're talking to each other and they're talking over each other because they're really excited and they're developed. And then you've got someone on Teams kind of feeling like the odd one out and going, oh, what's that group talking over there? So I think there's never been a clearer illustration of why face to face is more important for that kind of dynamic interaction and engagement. You can only have one person speaking at any one time on these virtual calls, which is always a challenge, particularly when you're on, Kyle, because I know you love to talk non-stop. But I would definitely say C in terms of this poll.
So I won't leave you waiting any longer. So the yes, can't wait got 42% of the vote. No, virtual's the way forward got 10%, which means that squeaking by is a mix of both with 48%, which was closer than I thought it was going to be, I'll be honest. Yeah. Because all we've seen, I don't know if you've seen the articles, especially LinkedIn, is how people they want to still work from home. They still want that virtual style and all the rest of it. And I think you're seeing people are just running out of patience a little bit with the virtual side of things. They miss that human interaction.
So just to add into that, I think getting back to normality, working from the office, if that's what you're doing before, is the right way to go. But in terms of if you're having meetings, then I think, it's difficult just having that remote thing. If I had a meeting where I would typically, go to somewhere to go and meet with a customer, I'd still want the majority of those to be face to face. I think that the combination, the virtual is kind of like, it's a supplementary as opposed to like a normal or primary bit of it. It's just supplement.
Yeah, it's a weird one because from a podcast perspective, and that's a lot of what I do at Clarity, I don't think anything really beats that in a room, sat around the table, all kind of the conversations flowing, there's that banter back and forth, there's the jokes that you don't quite make it on air and things like that. Whereas I think sometimes when it is virtual, you're always competing against the emails that are popping up constantly throughout the call, the fact that a kid might pop in through the door in 2 minutes time asking you for something, the doorbell's going to go because an Amazon delivery's there. There's so many other things that are kind of stealing your attention away. Whereas I think if you're in the office, you're in the room together, all that stays outside of the room, I think. And sometimes you can get a little bit more. But clearly the audience is starting to get to that sense where they want to get back into the office, which is great for us from a TMC perspective. The next one, and we'll go the other way around so now. So we'll go Rami, Trish, Darren. So what is the most important factor when booking a hotel for business? So they were given 4 options on this one. So cost, flexibility, extras, which include Wi-Fi and free parking, and health and safety measures.
So with this one, I'm probably going to be the odd one out here, but I think the answer here is going to be flexibility. I think health and safety measures are now a given. People aren't kind of reading the T's and C's for how many times someone's cleaned the toilet with a toothbrush with regards to hotels. So I think it's a given that it will be safe when they get there. I think the flexibility of being able to move should something happen. Flexibility has always been important with business travel anyway. You know, as standard when we do corporate deals, airlines do corporate deals, we offer flexibility. So I definitely think flexibility will come out here. And
Trish?
Yeah, for exactly the same reasons. I would have said flexibility, absolutely, because you're 100% right. It is a given now. And of course, when we're looking at those security measures, those health and safety measures, you know, we're talking about the Clarity hotels, the accredited hotels, and all of the airline measures that's all pulling through as you're making your choice to empower those bookers to make that right choice. But for me, yeah, I think it is the flexibility, because no matter what, anything can change at the drop of a hat. That's what we're seeing all the time. So to just know that you've got that little bit of extra added insurance if something goes pear-shaped, you know, that would be key for me.
And Darren?
Exactly the same. I think that once we get through the pandemic, you know, that'll switch. I think it will probably look at value adds maybe, or cost, but definitely right now, flexibility.
See, I'm going to go differently. So clearly I'm on a much lower wage than all of you guys, because cost is very big for me. You guys are like, yeah, whatever it is whatever it is. But extras is a massive part of it, because obviously doing business traveling around, and especially when you're doing a lot of media stuff, bad Wi-Fi can really ruin a lot of things. Because sometimes if you get back to the hotel and you can't work, and not just that, if you want to relax and watch Netflix or a bit of YouTube or whatever, and either the Wi-Fi is just straining through and you're getting like a few kilobits a second, or they try and charge a ridiculous amount for like 20 foot, and you're just thinking to yourself, why is this not part of the experience? Like, I'm a business traveler, I booked through my business, that's part of it. Why is this not included somewhere? So Wi-Fi is probably the top, I think, for me. But the audience have spoken, and they've said cost is 31% of the vote. Flexibility was 40% of the vote. Extras, Wi-Fi and free parking, was 24%, and health and safety only 5%. So I think there is that assumption, isn't it, that is just, it's going to be safe. They put all these things in, and you would expect it to be. And let's be honest, if you got there and it wasn't, if you got there and it was a bit of a mess and someone else's clothes were still in there or whatever, you would be out of there, wouldn't you? You wouldn't kind of suffer that. But yeah, flexibility, I imagine as well, that's if you get pinged or whatnot and you can't make the journey, having that flexibility to cancel or move the date is probably really important for a lot of people. And then the final poll question. So this was more around Darren, but it might be some use for yourself as well, Rami. So do you currently have the tools and data to save the most money on your travel? Fairly easy answers on this one. So yes, no, and we're working on it. So if we start with Trish this time and then go to Rami and then finish on Darren. So what do you think people said about this one? Because I know you do, because you use Go to Insight. So Darren would absolutely kill me if you started saying that you didn't.
No, what's that?
What is it?
Yeah, obviously that's an absolute given for us, because we've got access to Go to Insight, which is a very, very powerful tool. I think the majority of people will say no, because I don't think there are a lot of tools out there that are clever enough. Like we talked about before, you can have access to data, but data doesn't tell you anything unless it's in a particular way. You need that data to
need that context,
to tell you that story and pinpoint those areas of opportunities. And that's either going to come through a piece of amazing technology, or your account manager, or a combination of both, essentially. So I kind of think they're going to say no.
What about yourself, Rami?
So I'm going to go the other way here. I'm going to say that people think they do. So I think the answer is going to be yes. But actually, I think as an industry, and I know Clarity, you guys do this super well. I think as an industry, it's understanding the true nose to tail cost of travel. It's not just about how much it is sort of per flight or what have you. It's not even just about taxis and transfers and all that sort of thing. It's about, carbon emissions for the entire journey. It's about the staff retention. It's about the staff satisfaction. And I don't think we're quite there yet for people making the right decisions on a regular basis in terms of saving the most money. So I think people think they do. But personally, I don't think they necessarily have the tools to make those decisions.
So, Darren, you've got the deciding vote here. It's a swing one at the minute.
No. So I'm going to make it a three-way split, because I think that people are going to come back and say that they are working on it, because I think that the ease of access of tools that we got now, like Microsoft's Power BI, or even just Excel, we've got lots of data that are around. So I think probably people will be thinking, well, I've got lots of data, disparate data. I don't really have a way to join it up, but we're working on it.
So I'm mixed a little bit. I think people have a bit of an overconfidence when it comes to reporting. So I'm probably with Rami, and I think it depends how you envisage it. If you think the old school way of that you can run a report off in an Excel document, and through that you can work a few filters and figure it out, and you know where your spend's going and things like that. I think people probably think they do, but that's quite a long-winded way of getting to it. And I know in your interview piece, Darren, you gave some really good examples to, and even in the podcast as well, examples to how you could use proper kind of reporting and MI tools to quick changes that can showcase potential savings in the future. So yeah, I'd probably say that the actual results come in as, and this is going to be a shocker, so 43% each for yes and no, and 14% on we're working on it.
Wow.
Which is so
we tied, Trish, you and I. Not that I'm competitive, right?
Yeah.
Because actually, I agreed with your answer, Rami. As soon as you said it, you were right, as in, I think people think they've got the tools, but actually they don't. They have data, like Darren was saying there. So that is an interesting split.
But I think that those who answered no should really, really think about making
spoken
it
like
so
a true,
no, we're working on
true
it.
MI and data. The data's wrong, Kyle, is what I'm saying to you. It's absolutely wrong. No, but it is a shock, and I do think you're right. I think there are those people that, and I suppose as well, the polls that are out there on social media. So there's probably a little bit of, if I answer no to this, is somebody going to try and sell me something off the back of these answers? Absolutely not. We're not going to do that. So yeah, I mean, it is very interesting to see kind of how people are talking. So, I mean, at this minute in time, it feels like they want to get back to face-to-face meetings, but don't mind a bit of mix at the minute in time. That they want flexibility on their bookings, and that they think they've got the best data in the world and they can save the most money. So our job's done. And I think that's we've pretty much nailed it. So I mean, we are coming to the end of the show now. So I want to thank you all for coming on. If people want to know more about Clarity, they can go to claritypt.com. They can find us on Twitter, clarity_BT, and on LinkedIn as Clarity, and Facebook as Clarity as well. If people want to know more about the Clubhouses, Rami, where can they go?
Yeah, obviously you can go to virginatlantic.com, and there's a variety of our kind of, this is what we offer. But actually, I'd encourage people to get onto Google. There are a myriad of sort of blog posts. I obsessively read sort of bloggers and Instagram posts and LinkedIn posts about our product, because I think it gives the genuine customer experience side of what it's like. So get the Points guys did a write up when they came on day one. So have a read of the blogs, just travel blogs, Virgin Atlantic, Clubhouse, and that's where I recommend you start, really.
And if you're on YouTube watching this, because we're available on youtube.com/Clarity Business Travel, you can actually find our journey video, which was filmed. The majority of it was filmed actually at the Clubhouse at London Heathrow. So if you wanted to see what it looks like and what it feels like, you can definitely check out that video. Thank you so much to our guests, Rami, El-Dahshan, Trish Williams, Darren Williams, for joining us on the show. We'll be back next month with a new film from Clarity Studios, not coming to a cinema near you. Thank you and goodbye.